My name is Brandon Robinson. For those of you that don't know me, I am a head geek at RDM Infinity because I refuse to put president on my business title. We also have Jim Hammonds, who his job title is technically senior geek, but he is more of a geek translator. He's the guy that helps us talk to everybody in this room and then help relay some of that information back to our developers. We also have Scott Allen, Director of Agency and Strategic Sales for Entrinsik, and the amazing Randall Williams, Director of Informer Training, who's going to give us a live demo today. I'm going to turn it over to Scott for just a minute to introduce all of you to Entrinsik and learn a little bit more about them.
Thank you, Brandon. As my title said, I do have strategic sales, which includes partnerships like our partnership with RDM Infinity. So we're excited to be here. I'm very excited to have Randall show you Informer, but a little bit about our company. I saw in the chat that somebody joined from Raleigh. We are based in Raleigh, North Carolina. The company started in 1984. Our product Informer was initially an internal product that was specifically meant for an internal product that was MultiValue database related, and basically we started showing it to customers back in the early 2000s and took it to market. So it's well over 25 years old. We focused on a couple of verticals which had MultiValue database student information system. One's called Colleague. It's an Illusion product. And then also in around 2010, we started working with a company called Vertifor that has a MultiValue agency management system called Sajita. And as we've kind of grown over those years, we've got 500 plus universities using our product daily and over 100 insurance and title customers. We started working with AI about 3 years ago, just about the time ChatGPT was released, and our CTO and now CEO really kind of embraced that technology, and we've sort of, I think, have done a great job of integrating it securely into Informer. So we've got a lot of exciting things we can do inside Informer using the AI technology. And we rely on RDM as a value-added reseller to really use their expertise in their marketplace with their customers to utilize and kind of get the most out of Informer's reporting with our native connectivity to MultiValue systems, as well as their MB Sharp products and such. So with that, that's a little bit about us, and I'll pass it over to Brandon.
Awesome, thank you, Scott. For those of you who are not on the call that don't know much about RDM, just a quick introduction. RDM is one of the leaders in multi-value service providers in the nation, if not the world at this point. One of the things we really pride ourselves on is really taking industry veterans and bringing them onto the team, from the likes of Jim Hammonds to Dick Teo to John Bramley across the board, and pairing them up with young programmers. So we have developers that range from the old graybeards like I am now, all the way down to multi-value developers who are in their mid-20s. It's really sort of driven us forward for 15 years now, and really allows us to provide that flexibility to be able to do things like we're going to talk about today. We are beyond proud that as a multi-value service provider, we've made the Inc. 5000 list multiple times. You'd have to go back very, very far to find another multi-value company that's grown as fast as we have, and the honor of being on that list with such great companies. Outside of business intelligence, we're experts in warehouse management, our custom programming solutions, MV Sharp, which is our answer to your multi-value database upgrade to move your software and your business to the future. Everything from e-com, web development, mobile, source control, web term. But what we really want to talk about today is business intelligence. And as we celebrated our 15-year anniversary this year, RDM has never officially supported or resold a business intelligence platform in the past. We love them all because we are, at the end of the day, we are data people, and we understand your multi-value data people better than anybody else. When we were introduced to Entrinsik and Informer, and Scott and I started talking, what we realized was that we finally found a partner and a solution that we could really get behind, so we could really leverage the power of not only what we do and the ability to move data back and forth out of your multi-value system, but really the front end and how that really tweaks and allows you to see and make actionable intelligence against your multi-value data that you may have had locked up for years and or decades in your system. What I want to walk you through real quick is just a few of the things we're about to see from the demo. These are real time. These are actual dashboards from Informer, cards that were built with some of the AI and Informer Go we're going to talk about, some of the native Entrinsik platform. So I can instantly see sales product by category revenue, maybe distribution by region, shipping statistics and on-time performance, sales reps, and so much more that's locked inside these systems that really power your system, not only day to day, but year after year. And for some of you, I know, decade after decade. From here, I do want to turn it over to Randall Williams, who's the Director of Training at Entrinsik, and we're going to let him switch over as we're going to get a live demo today.
All
Randall,
right, thank
floor
you
is
so
yours.
much. Can you all hear me? I'm coming through all right, Brandon? Perfect. Okay, so I have here on my screen Informer. This is an example of an instance of an Informer. This is our homepage, and it's what is going to appear to you as you first log in. Now, you're going to have the ability for each of you to have your own instance of Informer. So you're going to have only your own stuff there. It's not going to bleed into anybody else's. And we've got a couple of different pieces of content that I want to walk us through, starting with this data set. This data set is called Northwind Orders. That's just an indication that we're using fake dummy data. It doesn't have anything sensitive in it. It's a bunch of fake sales data for us to demonstrate with. So as I click into this, you're going to see what it looks like when we pull back data. So this is a data set. I can see each of these line items is a sale. And if I scroll to the right, I can get an idea of what my multi-value data is going to look like in this platform. So we can see it in a hopefully very familiar way with sort of a one line item that is just a little bit taller to accommodate those multiple values. And this is how most platforms do display it. So it's probably something that looks familiar to you. This data set is very interactive. I can rearrange fields and sort by my customer name and things like that. But really what's important to us here is that this data is stored and cached within Informer. We can see the last time that I ran this was yesterday afternoon. But you also have the ability to fetch real-time data and run those queries live when you need it. Using this kind of cached data, I have the ability to pull this into dashboards and make really compelling visuals. Now, I do also want to mention all of this data is secure. So you are going to have the ability to customize what your users should see as far as which files they can access, which fields they can access, even which rows they can access. So if I have users who are only allowed to see sales within a certain region of the world, I can limit this data set to only show those records that appear in the countries that that sales representative is supposed to represent. I've got total control over the security of my data and what other users can see. Now from here, I want to go back to the home page, and I'll show you sort of a more compelling way to view this data. And all of those security settings that I'd mentioned are going to follow you into this dashboard. So users will only be able to see the data that they're supposed to see in a dashboard, which is just a collection of visuals. I like to put a title at the top and make it obvious that you can customize this by adding an image or a logo. It's great for branding your dashboards. As we scroll on down through, I always start with the big picture at the top. This is just my preference on building dashboards. So I can see in this time period, how many orders did I have and what is my total dollar amount. I can also see if I have a goal set somewhere, I can list that and bring in a gauge that tells me what is my progress towards that goal. And this is going to be sort of a color gradient from left to right, going from red to yellow to green as I get closer and closer to my goal. This is also totally interactive. So I can go through and choose specific filters. Maybe I have Andrew and Anne together on a team, and I want to filter this down by just this team. So I'll filter by my salesperson, and you'll see these two visuals on the left are going to redraw almost instantly. It's actually very, very fast. Now, the one on the right did not change, and that's because as the author of this dashboard, I decided that this one visual should ignore my input filters. So I have control. I can customize how do these on-screen, easy-to-use filters behave around all the other visuals on screen. As I continue on downward, I'm just going to show you some of the other visuals that we have in place. This is going to be a world map that just shows us, based on the darkness of the country, how many sales are there. So US and I believe this is Germany are going to be my two largest regions that I'm selling in. And as such, they are the two darkest countries listed on this map. If I want to know more detail, for example, let's say I'm interested in Sweden, seems to be a little bit higher value than what I might have expected. I can click into this and request more data. So this is a way to sort of drill into your data and get more details. So if I want to know which of my customers exist in Sweden that we're shipping to, I can go and pivot by this, and I can say, oh, I've got two customers out there, and I suppose I didn't recognize that my Folco customer was as large as they are. So that gives me some insight on where this data is coming from. I can also click on the piece of the map and choose View Data. This is just going to give me my line by line rows of data that make up this piece of the map. And once I have it here, I can even export it out of Informer to a different file type that I might be more comfortable with. So we've got a lot of flexibility, excuse me. We have a lot of flexibility of how we can work with this data as it appears in Informer. I'll continue on down here and show you the next two that I've got. I have sales revenue by quarter. And as I hover over each of these, I can see what those numbers are. I can also choose to change it. If I want this to not be by quarter, let's say I want it by year, I can make that change very quickly and easily, and that's a customized setting for my user account. Other users did not see that change. So if somebody else were to log in and look at this data, it would still be listed by quarter, not by year. I can also hover over each of these, and again, I have my ability to pivot as well as to view the data that we saw before. But some charts have the ability to also do a drill down. So in this case, if I were to drill down into 2024, because that's the piece that I've clicked on, and I want to see this by month, it allows me to go into further detail, and I can see each of the months within 2024. And when I'm ready to go back to the full display, I just follow my breadcrumbs at the top of the visual. Likewise, we have a pie chart here. And if I hover over each piece of the pie, it highlights, it gives me a tooltip that's nicely formatted that tells me what this data represents. I've configured it to show a % sign next to each piece of the pie. And again, if I click into something, I can go and request more details. So if I want to drill down, maybe just to see what products is Margaret shipping, what products is she actually selling, this is going to give me that same kind of drill down that I can go and look at each individual item. For visuals that have a legend at the bottom of the screen, excuse me, got something there caught in my throat. For visuals that have a legend at the bottom of the screen, that's also interactive. So I might look at this data and recognize, oh, Nancy is actually not one of our employees, but maybe Nancy is a contractor that we've hired or that we've worked with in the past. I may want to hide that entry from this particular visual and see how that changes my numbers. So I'll just point out really quickly that Margaret is sitting at 18%. But when I go to my legend and click on Nancy and hide her, Margaret changes to 22%. So it recalculates the percentage, it redraws the pie as though Nancy had been excluded. So this gives me just customization on how to view my data, sort of handling exceptions as I recognize them, or be able to look at hypotheticals if needed. And it's all very interactive, unless I choose to build non-interactive elements. So at this point, I've decided that none of these visuals should actually respond to me clicking on them. This is something, again, that I've configured as the author of the dashboard. And when I go through clicking through these, as I go through clicking through these, you'll see that none of those options come up. Now, it is going to ask me on the bar chart if I want to change colors because I'm a super user. I have the ability to set a color for each of these, but you'll notice it doesn't give me the option to view the data behind that bar. I can't drill down. I cannot pivot. And as a matter of fact, with the map, as I click on this, nothing at all happens. Likewise, I've got a couple of tables that I just found to be fairly compelling. Here, I can even see a percent change in my sales numbers from year to year. And I'll just expand those, make them a little bit nicer. So I've got a lot of different ways that I can represent my data in a format that I find to be compelling, that's going to help drive my data-driven decisions and help me to make good business decisions. And again, all of the information that's available to me through this dashboard is based on the security that I have when I'm logged into Informer. So if there's data that I'm not supposed to see, it will not show up on this dashboard. Even if other users can see it, they'll be able to see it on the dashboard. It will be excluded from my view. I can also show you most of this stuff can be built out for you by RDM Infinity. They are going to be experts available to work with you all to build this content. But if there's interest and we have additional time at the end, I can show you how easy some of this stuff is to build within Informer. It's a very point and click format, and I think you'll be able to build compelling visuals, maybe even design your own queries without much learning and without having to be a technical analyst or a data analyst or anything along those lines. All right. With that, I'd now like to back up and start talking about our AI component. I have here an assistant. This is Informer's AI. And I can click into this assistant and show you what it looks like, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to point out that we have an app that you can download, and it's just right there under your username. You can go and grab the Informer Go app, which is going to be a shortcut to connect to this so that every time I go and use Informer, I don't have to come to the browser, find my page, and log in. I actually just have this app that exists out here. It's going to remember my conversation history, and it's going to show me the questions that I've been asking and give me just a simple interface where I can ask any question that I want. Now, I am going to show you what we've done so far. I have simply added an assistant to this chat, and I chose the Northwind Sales Assistant. This means that it is going to have information about my Northwind sales. You can see I have a lot of different assistants. They can be configured to have information about your data, about files that you've uploaded to it. You can have information about files that are in a drive that you've connected to. So I could even connect to Microsoft OneDrive or a Dropbox account or something like that and pull data out of that as well. But this one is looking at the data that we've been working on so far. And I asked it earlier, how closely does a salesperson's quantity of sales correlate to their sum order total. And I wanted that information broken down year by year. So it's going to give me this feedback. It took the whole thing about 30 seconds to get all the information that we're going to scroll through here. And it was giving it to me bit by bit as it was coming up with these answers. We'll see that it started by going and looking at the data that I have access to. And it showed a chart showing the number of sales and the total quantity for each salesperson by year. Then it gave me a breakdown of analysis for how the quantity and the order total was correlating. It gave me this correlation coefficient of 0.94. And if that's not terribly obvious what that means, or if it didn't give me the very strong positive up here, then I could ask follow-up questions for clarity on what exactly does that mean. But it preempted that idea, and it said, here is sort of a simple breakdown of what this data actually represents for us. It tells me that it is very strong correlation between my quantity and order total, sales quantity and order total. And it tells me about who is actually providing the most sales through my teams. And we can see that that is going to be Margaret, Nancy, and Janet, just showing us that they're the ones who are making the most sales. So I think by being able to directly ask a plain language, simple English question to gain insight about your data is really quite compelling. It unlocks that sort of technical skill set that you no longer have to be able to pull real value out of your data that is traditionally somewhat difficult to get to. This is going to be a really important key in making good data-driven decisions that are going to benefit your companies, your businesses. With that, Brandon, thank you all so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Brandon if we have any questions.
Awesome, Randall. Amazing demo as always. This just shows you a quick glimpse of what we saw when we first really wanted to introduce Entrinsik to all of our customers and really dive into Informer to, obviously focus on your multi-value data, but then be able to tie in other data sources like Randall was talking about, which I think I skipped originally, was this isn't just for multi-value data, even though that's at its core every day. This could be OneDrives, this could be SQL tables, this could be lots of different places to pull data from to really combine them to see how your data really correlates with each other across the board. Great job, Randall. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we'll open up to a few of the questions we've got. One of the questions we always get is, now that we're using AI and such, and Randall alluded to it a little bit, but I want to make sure we cover, how does it make sure your data stays secure, right? Because now your data is moving in a lot of different places. How does Informer help handle that?
Yeah, so of course, I mentioned how different files and fields and even the rows of data are going to be locked down to which users can see what content. When you are interacting with the AI component, you are still logged into Informer. You can see I've got my name and my logout button down here. I'm still my same user. So the concern then is, can I trick AI into giving me data that I wouldn't normally be allowed to see? And the answer to that is no, because for the AI to get access to that data, it has to borrow your credentials to be able to fetch that data. So Informer is not just exposing all of your data to AI without regard. It's actually only showing the information that you're already allowed to see. On top of that, the follow-up concern then is, will AI models be trained off of our data? Is it going to be using our data, putting it into the public space for anybody to ask AI questions and that'll just answer? And the answer to that is also no. We are protecting your data in that way as well by only giving you enterprise AI providers that have agreements and privacy policies in place that say that they will not store your data, they will not use your data, they will not train their models off of your data. So your data does stay secure. That's in direct conflict with a lot of the, or it's opposition, I suppose, with a lot of those free AI models that will simply, if you use it for free, it is going to learn off of all the things that you tell it. We are not doing that. We are using secure AI only.
Awesome. Thanks, Randall. And everybody in the chat, keep the questions coming. These are awesome. So we'll dive into one here about how would RDM handle a move away from another BI platform into Informer, or really learn how to integrate our data. And that really comes down to the fact that we understand your multi-value data and other data formats like very few people do. As we pull in SQL data, as we pull in your multi-value data, and then really start tying it together within the flexibility of the platform, it allows you to drill down across all of your data and visualize your data from different data sources in really powerful different ways. Whether it's native drivers into JBase, whether it's real-time REST calls into D3, however that communication method works within your multi-value. And like Randall said, those can be cached or live queries against that data. We now get to expose and see that data in really wonderful new ways, if you're asking my opinion. So let's see here. One more question. This is a good one. AI is notoriously bad at math in some cases and some models. How does Informer work around that in showing some of those calculations and such that you see there?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. AI is actually not doing the math in these cases. What it does is it actually makes requests to Informer's own REST API. It's making requests to Informer's API to pull information. So rather than Informer dumping all of your data into AI and saying, can AI find who is our top salesperson and add up those numbers? What it's doing is it tells AI, here's a list of the different field names that you can ask about. And AI knows how to ask for groups by salesperson, total sales order, show me the top number. So it's skipping the math by offloading that to Informer, and we give it all of the functionality that it needs to be able to accomplish that.
Awesome. Very cool, Randall. Looks like that might be wrapping up some of the questions here.
We had a question from Herbert Rubin.
Yeah.
And he said, what role does RDM provide? Connectivity, customization, question mark.
Perfect. So that's a great question, Herb. Depending on the database, some of the JBase JAgent drivers are already built in. Some of the D3 parts would go through some of our RDM build connectors, but then also helping you build not only the queries on the back end to pull the data, but also the ability to query and help model that data on the front end to the level of comfort you want. As Randall said, once the data is in Informer, dragging and dropping and building those visuals you saw becomes very easy because you don't have to be a data scientist to do it. So really the role of RDM is to set up the initial connections, help you identify the data that you need to the dashboard originally, whether that's coming from an existing BI system or setting up from scratch. And then really kicking you off so you can use Informer to its fullest extent.
Yeah, we can also help you build the dashboard as well.
Another question. So behind the scenes has context of what the columns, arrays, etc. are, and the AI just interprets the question of the query. I guess that's just to get some confirmation on what that looks like. Does that question make sense to you, Randall?
It does. There's actually a little bit more information, kind of going on behind the scenes. Informer is also providing AI a list of here are the different kinds of functions that you can ask, as well as Informer itself is completely REST API compatible, and AI knows about that as well. So it has lots of different ways that it knows to interact with Informer, and we just provide it a skeleton of the data so that it knows what kinds of questions to ask, and then it'll figure out what's the best way to pull that information out of Informer, given its level of security and access.
Awesome. Awesome. Any last minute questions here? Jim and I will be following up with every one of you. We appreciate you guys taking the time. So if any questions do come up, because every time I have a question just came in, does Informer sync with Copilot yet?
With Copilot, as in Microsoft Copilot. It does not yet, I don't believe. Well, you know what? Let me take a look. I'm not certain about that. I've got a list of all my different models here. Do I have Copilot?
I love every time we get to help Randall because it doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't happen very often. So we've got an Informer Copilot that's built in. It's currently a specified version of OpenAI's models, but it does not look like we currently sync with Microsoft Copilot. Remember that this is a feature that is coming early next year. I believe, well, I'm not going to speculate on when. Scott can do that if he'd like. But this is constantly expanding. We are looking for new AI models to connect to. That is one of the pieces that is expanding. And one of the things that's going to be available eventually is to actually bring your own AI model. So if you've got a server in-house that's running Ollama or something like that, you'll be able to connect to that as well. But for right now, in this beta version that I'm demonstrating, the answer is no, we don't connect to Microsoft Copilot yet.
Awesome.
That's, one comment on that, what you just said there, Randall. It's interesting that before this is introduced, you can demonstrate it on MultiValue. A lot of the MultiValue community isn't used to having that happen. This is really good. So thank you for your efforts there.
Thank you very much.
And Brandon, I wanted to add, I kind of was remiss earlier when I was talking about the company, but I think this is a good time. We're going to support RDM, as we get going with my support, Randall's support in terms of demoing. And one of the things our company did this year, which was really, I think, excellent, it's just unheard of, and people have really taken to it, is we replaced giving away items at trade shows and such with donating meals. We actually volunteer a couple times a year at the Raleigh Food Bank. We chose Feeding America as a partner. And this year we provided 28,500 meals. And so anyone on this call that is interested in setting up a call with RDM Infinity to learn more about Informer, we will donate 100 meals, and we'll continue that tally. And that will count for any meetings that are set up through the balance of December and through January. So just wanted to kind of talk about that. I just read our CEO's year in review, and I think we're all really proud about that. And again, I think people at our events were really kind of taken aback by what we were doing. So anyway, I'd welcome you guys to give Brandon and Jim a call and get something set up.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. That's really amazing. That's really awesome that Entrinsik does that. Perfect, everyone. If that's it, we want to say, obviously, thank you guys for taking time out of your day. It's never easy to sit down, especially for a half hour straight. I know I can get a lot of words in a half hour. Yeah. But thank you guys for your time and your support of RDM Entrinsik going forward. We're looking forward to talking to all of you about how this can really help your business. So I hope that all of you have a really great day, and thanks for attending.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, everybody.